Ladies and gentlemen, today we are live for the first of two live commentary streams on the channel as we have coverage of the NASCAR Cup Series Pennzoil 400 practice and qualifying from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway right here, right now. Cars are set to take track in a few minutes of 2:05. Officially, they will start practice and we'll see the first cars on the racetrack for the Cup Series this weekend. Truck and Xfinity practice and qualifying took place yesterday already, and the Truck Series race was also last night. Once again, congratulations to Rajah Caruth getting his first career Truck Series win and locking himself early into the playoffs in the running for the championship. The weather is going to be a factor, to say the least, especially today through this qualifying and practice run, as well as the Xfinity Series race later. Winds are supposed to pick up right now at the racetrack 25 miles per hour. They're supposed to be 30 to 35 mile an hour winds by the Xfinity race a little later on in the Las Vegas afternoon. The gusts are 55 miles per hour. We may see a lot of incidences taking place in this qualifying session coming up after practice, so it's going to be very, very difficult. I think it's going to be a fun qualifying session as we get to watch these drivers try to take on these very difficult track conditions on a racetrack itself, which has been very abrasive as of the last few years. Quite a bit of tire fall off in the longer runs, so it is not a smooth racetrack whatsoever, and the wind is only going to further amplify things from that standpoint. Thanks for everybody, though, tuning in here today. Be sure to hit that like button. I'm not sure what our goal is for the likes on these streams specifically, because they are definitely the shortest ones of the week. Again, these practice sessions, really, it's only about a half hour, and then qualifying a little more than that after the fact. So, yeah, I think we're set for a fun day of racing in general, even though the race itself isn't right now. The Xfinity race should be a lot of fun later as well on this very less than grippy racetrack. Patrick Shadley, thanks for tuning in. First one down in the chat below. The raw feed is up as of right now, as you see. Once cars start hitting the track, you'll get to see their lap times. I'm not sure why it shows Eric Jones there. Maybe he is the first car on track, but I still think we have 3 more minutes before we actually see anybody take the track yet. Again, 2:05 Eastern time, which would be local time in Las Vegas, 11:05. For practice to get going. A 20-minute run for both groups. Again, 2 groups go out separately for practice under the current practice and qualifying format. Man, those flags are whipping in the wind. It is going to be very treacherous conditions. I don't know if I've ever seen the wind quite like this at the racetrack. There's been some windy days at the racetrack, but 55 mile per hour wind gusts is absolutely insane. Santiago Kid, Dan Bowers, Riley also welcome into the stream. Like that you guys are putting where you're from in the chat. Pretty cool to see. Some of you already know where you're from just from prior comments you've left in the chat just from where you're from, but it is still cool to see it though. Yeah, the weather here, I'm not sure what the temperature is right now. It's probably in the 40s if I had to guess. Northwest Ohio. They said it was supposed to get up to 62 earlier in the week today, but then the temperature keeps dropping because it's fairly windy here too. Nowhere near as much as it is in Las Vegas, but it's cool. Not cold, but cool. Dennis Gerald from Florida. Thanks for tuning in as well. I would imagine they come back from the commercial break and we'll see our first car on the racetrack. 13 likes on the stream right now. Again, be sure to hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. Again, 20 minutes for Group A and Group B. The field will be split in half. And then qualifying, they will qualify through the first session based off the groups that they run in practice. It is a random draw as far as who is in which group. There is no major difference here for what group is on the racetrack at what time. Again, it is at random. And the qualifying order or qualifying session will be timed as well. And I believe that is 10 minutes. 10 minutes to try to set a lap time in group qualifying for each group. And then the final session is going to be single car, 10 of them. The 5 in descending order that is taken from Group A and then Group B as well. Actually, no, now that I think about it, I think those are single car qualifying runs. Well, we'll see here in a minute, I guess. That might be single car qualifying. I honestly can't remember. I haven't watched a qualifying session outside of the 2 that we've already done this year in a very long time. I'm usually, working or just, maybe trying to keep track of it on my phone. But now that we're streaming the live commentary streams for the qualifying sessions all throughout the season, this is semi-new to me. And obviously new to the channel as well. How in the world are they going to practice qualify? Well, they're going to try. I would imagine the wind is going to... I mean, even on the highway, if winds were that hard, I would feel my car pushing and shoving all over the place. I can't imagine at high-rated speeds. It's going to be... We may see some cautions in practice and qualifying. I would not be... I'd be surprised, actually, if we don't see anybody go for a spin at all in practice and qualifying today. Jamie Little standing with Austin Cindric.
Obviously, see how fast our discount time for Mustang is. That's the goal here. So, pretty similar conditions to really both events for this practice session. So, I think we're going to learn a lot about this Dark Horse Ford Mustang. Really, the first time we're putting it to the test and more of a handling situation. So, we're pretty poised. Team Penske's done an amazing job the first couple weeks of the year of bringing the fastest race cars. So, let's see what we got today.
Good luck today and good luck later on. This guy's moving up to the booth for the Xfinity Series race, Mike.
It should be fun. Alexander. So, Group A and B for practice and qualifying. There is a performance metric that sets the qualifying order, and it's a combination of last week's fastest lap, last week's finishing position, and the car owner points. So, Group A and Group B are separated that way for practice, and then we'll get to qualifying in a bit later. Headwind versus tailwind makes for about a 12-mile-per-hour difference on these race cars.
Yeah, you see Tyler Reddick going through the middle of the racetrack here, and with the rub blocks and the limiters and everything that you have to set on these cars, the safe route at the beginning of practice is through the middle of 1 and 2, and as he goes into turn 3 right here, you want that left front to be right on that line. And as a driver, these are intense laps because of the banking and the speed, and these guys haven't done this unrestricted racing yet this year, so this is the first time they've been full speed with everything they have going on here. Now he's on the bottom. Yeah,
down to the bottom of the racetrack where the bumps are. You saw it hit them bumps, move up the racetrack. Also hear it. Listen to him lift. Had to get out of the gas as soon as he hit them bumps. Just like you were talking about, Kevin.
Yeah, and with these cool conditions and the track not having a ton of rubber on it, the Xfinity cars were on the track race yesterday, but always at the beginning of these practices, when the rubber's not on the racetrack, the track here at Las Vegas has the most grip because the asphalt is cleaner. So this first group most likely will be a little bit faster than the second because of the conditions of the racetrack.
Ross Chastain goes to the top of the board after 3 laps.
Man,
A little higher in the racetrack. You hear him lift, and then right back to the throttle.
not much.
A lot of throttle on time here, Las Vegas.
And that's why I always like to be in that second group. This first group, the track has so much speed that I always felt like you learned a little bit less about your car. And being that first group out on the racetrack, when you go out to qualifying and the track has rubber up on it, oh, we got somebody spun around.
And down to the track apron off of turn number 2. And we'll remind you, we have limited camera capability. None of our high cameras are in operation here. Is it Preece?
Yes.
I think it is Preece.
Yeah, based upon those skid marks right there.
Looks like he got into the wall, window net's down.
I think those bumps might be part of this conversation. We'll have to see if we have a replay. It was Ryan Preece's 4th lap on track when this happened. Right there, hit them bumps, car unloaded. Way it went, come around on him in a hurry. Backed up in the wall, left side.
Hard shot.
Hard into that wall. That hurts. The way these chassis are built, there's just no give to be able to put in those race cars with the driver in the left side of the cars. Chassis are very solid, very stiff on that left side. He felt that one.
Yeah, and the right rear tire is still up. That's always something that we worry about here, just with trying to run the air pressure as low as possible.
Here's Tyler Reddick's view.
And the way that these teams set these cars up, we have limiters in the back in the shocks that allow the car to only travel a certain distance. And you want to run these limiters right as close as possible. But if you hit those limiters too hard, or it hits both limiters with these intense bumps that are on the racetrack here in 1 and 2, it's difficult to get those ride heights right. And if it's just off just a little bit, then it hits both of those limiters and just pops around and spins out.
Looked like that may have been the case with Ryan Preece. Clock running, 15 minutes to go in this group.
All right. So there you have it. Caution flag is out for the first time. Kind of figured that this was going to happen with the treacherous track conditions today due to extremely high winds. Again, 25-mile-per-hour winds with 55-mile-per-hour gusts. As you heard on the broadcast, their difference of speed down the straightaway with a headwind versus a tailwind, 12 miles per hour. They showed the in-car cam of Tyler Reddick throughout a lap or two of his run in the early going to this practice session, and he was hitting speeds of upwards of 193 miles per hour on the back straightaway getting into turn 3. I think there's more of a headwind on the front stretch because usually that side of the racetrack you are faster than what you are getting in to turn 3. Turn 1's usually faster, but he wasn't getting as high of a speed at that end of the racetrack, which leads me to believe that that is the effect of the wind. And yeah, incident already. Again, Ryan Preece's crash. He is out of the car. Ended up spinning in the middle of turns 1 and 2. Got a little bit loose. Car snapped around from underneath him. And he ended up not quite backing it into the wall, but backwards against the driver's side door into the wall. Pancaked it pretty good. So it looks like he's going to be going to a backup car for tomorrow's race. And obviously that means he will not be able to partake in qualifying in about 45 minutes or so as well. So again, Ryan Preece into a backup car for this weekend in the early start of practice, only about 5 minutes in. Damian H., Monstrous Eggman, Roma J., thanks for tuning into the stream also. 21 likes. Sure to hit that like button. Maybe we can get to 100. Who knows? Still new to the practice and qualifying streams this year, so we don't have much of a gauge on that. This is the first time actually we've had a practice session live streamed on the channel, as we had single car qualifying for Daytona with no practice leading up to it, and then last week for the Atlanta races in all 3 series they didn't have any practice sessions. Practice was obviously taking place yesterday with Trucks and Xfinity, but we don't do commentary for that on the channel, or I don't do the commentary for that on the channel, just for the Cup side of things. So here we are. And the reason why I don't do it for every series is because there are races throughout the course of the year where all the on-track activities going on Saturday, and I can't live stream from like 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning on certain occasions all the way to whenever the Xfinity race would get done at night if there's like a truck doubleheader there too. So that's why I don't do Xfinity and Truck Series practice and qualifying this year. Because if I did it, I want to make sure I do it every weekend just like I am for the Cup Series. I don't want to do it for just a few weekends. So as you see on our leaderboard, Ross Chastain has ran the fastest lap time of a 29.581 thus far. And that is an average speed of 184.269 miles per hour, which is actually very fast on a 1.5 mile racetrack. Unrestricted, nonetheless, this weekend. Limited cameras are in operation this weekend for Fox's coverage. I should say today specifically. They had good cameras for the truck race yesterday and as well as the Cup race tomorrow, but the wind's a lot higher for today. Again, gusts of 55 miles per hour, so they didn't want any camera operators way above the actual racing surface. So due to safety reasons, there aren't going to be as many camera angles for those of you watching on Fox Sports 1 for both practice qualifying today as well as the Xfinity Series race afterwards. So again, this clock does continue to run. It was at 20 minutes. It does not stop, so that's going to be even more limited time for these drivers to hit the racetrack in Group A. and I would not be shocked if we see another spin. There's still several drivers who were unable to even make a lap yet, so they're hoping they get back to racing here very quickly. Christopher Bell, Kaz Grala in this first group have not had a lap of action yet. But I believe they're the only ones that have not made a lap. Jamie Little standing with Chase Briscoe.
So far, what you saw with Preece there and just your cars in general.
Yeah, at least for Stuart Haas, we're kind of all over the board, right? Like Noah's really, really fast, and the other two are obviously a little bit lower on the charts. But yeah, it looked like with Ryan just kind of bottomed out, which is notoriously that happens here, especially in 1 and 2 with how rough it is. So yeah, hopefully, our Mahindra Tractor's dark horse will get through the bumps a little bit better than his. But yeah, I always love coming out here. It's a really fun racetrack, and hopefully, we can move around and have some options down there.
All right, we'll see you in the second session.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Jamie. Tomorrow, our coverage begins with the pre-race show at 3 o'clock Eastern Time for the NASCAR Cup race here in Vegas. Engines should fire about 3:30 Eastern, and you can see it only on Fox. The track reopens for Group A Cup Series practice. Ross Chastain fastest in a Chevy, Noah Gregson's Ford, and then Clint 4 Toyotas in a row.
Yeah, they are. I was looking at that, break, or only 4 laps in, but that's 4 Toyotas, count them 4, of the top 10 right there already. Looking pretty good for the Toyota boys.
Yeah, the thing I don't like about this, if I was a driver in this group, is I had to come in. Because you're trying to get in rhythm, you're trying to make sure that you understand what your car is like, but the cycle on those tires is always different when you come in, pull the tires off, and go back out. So now the air pressure's come down. You weren't able to run consecutive laps. So these guys are kind of guessing at this point because they had that cycle on their tires.
And that not only throws the drivers for a loop, it throws the teams for a loop. That cycle on the tires, inevitably, that car is going to go out there and drive different. It's just going to. Usually probably a little bit tighter.
Last week's winner, Daniel Suarez, right there making laps in this particular session, and man, what a finish! I still can't believe that finish. I still have that whole finish.
I tell you what, we all wanted that finish. Yeah. Everybody involved in NASCAR won last weekend. Awesome finish, awesome race. So excited to be there and see it.
And everybody is happy for this young man. Let's go under the helmet with Daniel Suarez.
When it comes to winning a race, there is that feeling. There is that special feeling that nothing else can give it to you, and you cannot buy. It's a feeling of winning, of those hours and sacrifice and discipline paying off, and that's a feeling that I think only sports can give it to you.
He was on stage with Pitbull at Pitbull's concert in Nashville on, I think, Wednesday night, and Pitbull called him a grinder. He grinds it out.
Well, I mean, it's the first wreck of the race, and you see him right there. He's right in the middle of it. And then lo and behold, here he is in one of the most spectacular finishes, winning last week in Atlanta. Just hats off. That is the definition of grinding it out right there.
Closest 1, 2, 3 finish in NASCAR history.
Bring on stage someone that's a grinder and underdog, a fighter, and that's living the American dream and is fighting for it. But I want to bring Daniel Suarez on stage right now. Daniel, come back up. We got to celebrate the win.
How cool is that?
That's way cool. All right, Group A practice time has been extended due to the red flag. So now 10.5 minutes to go in this session, according to our clock.
A tricky exit right there, Clint. You see that wall straight, and you see the arc of that corner. You have to get that card turned to be able to deal with this line of straight wall right here. You see this arc of the corner as it comes and wants to turn like that.
Yeah, for sure. It wants to run you off into the wall with your speed and your inertia. You have to really pull on the wheel hard, as you saw Suarez right there, to try to keep it out of that fence. Very tricky off of 4, especially with the winds that we have today.
Ty Gibbs, fastest of the Toyota camp, 29.53. just a tick quicker than Tyler Reddick. Larry McReynolds.
Yeah, Ty has run 11 laps, and Chris Gale, his crew chief, has been on him about staying off the apron down the front stretch. He said, take it easy on a race car. Come qualifying if you want to use it, go ahead and use it, but let's don't use it every lap because it's hard on the splitter and everything on the front end of that race car.
Yeah, and you want to keep the shape as good as you can on the front of that splitter and underneath the car, and really the diffuser in the back as well. You don't want the diffuser strakes to drag on the back of the car, because if those drag off, you have less distance on the diffuser when you come up here for the race and whatever happens today. So they want you to stay up off the racetrack to not grind the strakes on the diffuser and the shape of the splitter up front.
Ooh.
Whoa, hold on to it, Deanie. Could that have been a gust to win? Looked just like a loose race car to me, but that was a movement, and that's right where you pick up that crosswind.
Did I hear Denny had a big night in the casino last night?
I think I saw that on the old social media platform. Looked like he was wanting a blackjack tournament.
All right.
Already won something this week. Gregson, you see him on the bottom of the racetrack, looking at the best consecutive 5. Noah Gregson in his 10 car. I don't know. He's already coming in and making adjustments. Doesn't like something. Had some speed in that hot rod, though.
Fastest of the Fords in Group A by quite a margin. 2.5 tenths.
Well, you hope that's not just for a couple laps, because this is a place where the car needs to hang on, and that's what we talked about earlier. This first group is tough because the track is fast and can give you a false read on your car. And as you run, and now you've cycled the tires and everything that happens is tough to read.
Him pulling in pretty early in a run like that, that's probably a good indicator that's the case. Maybe a little bit too tight. Took off good, got too tight quick.
Christopher Bell had a great Daytona 500 and then trouble in Atlanta.
Runs well here at this racetrack. This is a good racetrack for Christopher Bell. If you're a Bell fan, you might look for him for a bet this weekend. Hard to count him out.
Martin Truex just in front of him has not found speed. He's about 6 tenths off of Ross Chastain's fastest lap of this session.
The good news is
7 to go.
The good news is his teammates have speed. The other thing about Martin Truex Jr. is when I think of him, I think of a long run guy. He has a long run speed. May not have the initial takeoff, but usually when push comes to shove and you look over your shoulder at the end of these races, you look over and see Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, and I always wanted to get in a rhythm. I was never a guy that was going to fire off fast here because of all the rhythm that I wanted to be able to build during the practice. And you see Martin, his last lap was faster than his teammate, who was his third. So, like you've talked about, it'll be interesting to see these Toyotas and Fords and how they race and what their balance is and everything that they're fighting as we go throughout this first weekend with new bodies.
New body on that Toyota, new body on the Ford Mustang. Keep an eye on those. There are adjustments for racetracks just like here. Just like what we've had with the super speedways. One of them needed to be better there. The Toyotas, the Fords, they were good there. Probably need to be a little bit better on these downforce tracks. That was the thought process. That's the adjustment they've made. Let's see if they can make use of it.
Carson Hocevar got his first top 20 of the season last week in Atlanta. Larry?
Kevin, I went back and watched this race from a year ago. You obviously ran both Las Vegas races last year. I watched it from green flag to checkered, and I've got to say, during that whole race, I never heard a single driver complain about loose. Everything was about front tire chatter. Too tight, won't turn. Is that kind of the characteristics of this track?
It really is, unless we have a situation like Ryan Preece has where they get the heights of their car wrong and it hits the bumps wrong. So ride quality is good. Then you're trying to go where they're not. So your car needs to be versatile here. It needs to be able to run the bottom of the racetrack just like that. You want that left front tire right on that white line, as we saw with Zane Smith there. But you need to be able to go in the middle of the corner. corner. So with that car, it's a game. When you get into turn 1 or turn 3, it's like, all right, he's going to the bottom, and I'm going to go to the middle. And if he goes to the middle, then you go to the bottom. You want to get as much clean air as possible on there, because otherwise it makes your car tighter than it.
Now, what Larry said right there is exactly spot on, the exception of one car, that 5 car. He was the one that was loose, actually got loose off of 2, and he's the one that won the race.
All right, what's Noah Gregson and his team talking about?
Pretty much tight all the way through 3 and 4. Following pre-moment is entry to 1. Landing, turning off wall, landing especially. I had a big moment when I went to the bottom. Scale from 1 to 10, how bad? Probably 4 or 5. Ride quality-wise, I don't want any worse. I could use help, but if we can, but if not, it's not going to kill me.
Good intel. I like that feedback.
There's a lot to take in right there, and had a big moment. And at this track, those moments are going to happen a lot more today, because as we look around, there's dust flying everywhere, the flags are straight out, and so those gusts of winds can sometimes spook you. And you don't know if it was the car doing that over the bumps, was it a gust of wind, so it's a little bit confusing.
Let's go on to the helmet with the Las Vegas native, Noah Gregson.
I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. My favorite driver growing up was Clint Boyer. I thought Clint Boyer was funny. I'd like to drive a trophy truck at the Baja 1000. Riley Herbst, hopefully I can be your teammate one day. I'd also like to win a cup race, preferably the Daytona 500. They say that one pays pretty good, and it's Daytona. You can't beat that.
Checks in the mail for him.
There you go.
That cost me a little bit, but it was worth it to have that on you, Kevin. Just the edge on you off of Noah Gregson, that felt good.
I'm a little bit
really
confused. I thought he would set his sights a little higher than that.
Hey, don't take this win from you. That's a victory, and do not.
The good news for Noah, his goal should be easily achievable.
Well, the bad news is he's tied to 3 and 4. We need to make an adjustment. Good kid.
He is a good kid.
Cool that he's home. This is a big track for him, big weekend. He'll have family and friends here. A good run will be a really good step in the right direction for Noah.
So, Jamie, if you can, tell us about this Vegas posse, that driver posse that Noah Gregson's a part of. Sorry, she's chasing a story. We'll get back to it. But it's Zane Smith, Noah Gregson, Riley Herbst. They grew up at the Bull Ring right across the street here racing, and even though Smith is from Huntington Beach, California, he considers Vegas his home track.
Yeah, we see the lap average there. We see Josh Berry coming to pit road practicing that pit entry here, which is really tricky. So you got to practice it. Another car right behind him practicing, and as they get towards the end of practice here, they'll practice getting onto pit road, so they have good visual markers and are able to get as much speed as they can on the pit road, run their car all the way down pit road to get a good idea of what their tack lights are. And as you see them get to the end of pit road, they're going to take off when they get to the yellow line, because you got to do everything you can do on this apron here and know the grip level to get up to speed coming out of the pits.
So let's try Jamie again. Tell us about this Vegas posse of young guns.
Yes, it goes all the way back to the Bush brothers, right? They grew up racing right across the street from here. So Noah Gregson, Riley Herbst, both as little boys grew up watching the Bush brothers. And since they were little boys, this is where they wanted to be. Now they're both racing occasionally together in Cup. And Noah, I met him as 11 years old, and he watched me do an interview and said, I'm going to be there one day. And he sure has. Zane Smith is the third one in that contingent that grew up with these guys, although he is a California kid, Mike.
Thanks, Jamie.
It's 23-11 cars, mean business. Looking over my shoulder here at best consecutive 15-lap average. 1-2, Tyler Reddick on top. Teammate Bubba Wallace right behind him. Fast race cars. You see Reddick getting out of that thing. I'm happy with it, boys.
All right, we're in the final minute of this session. Last year, being in Group A with the group sorted by the metric, you don't get to choose which group you're in. Being in Group A would have been a disadvantage because, except for all but one track, being in Group B meant your qualifying speeds were faster, and the Group A drivers that didn't make the second round started way deep in the field. That has changed for this year. When we come back, we're going to explain that all to you and how things are more even with the procedure the way it's employed this year.
Saw Roush Chastain practice in that pit road. Very, very important. Practice makes perfect.
All right, Ross Chastain has won Group A practice, and that group will get ready for qualifying. Group B will take to the track shortly.
All right, we'll go through the finishing order here of Group A due to, obviously, time constraints that this group is now finished with their practice session. Ross Chastain had the fastest time of a 30.539 pretty early in his run. That was his last lap. His fastest lap was a 29.305 and an average speed of 184.269 miles per hour. It was a second lap ran. Where that one was the quickest. He ended up with 22 laps total. Noah Gragson was second fastest on the charts. Ty Gibbs third. Tyler Reddick fourth. Denny Hamlin fifth. Bubba Wallace sixth. Chris Buescher seventh. Michael McDowell eighth. Carson Hocevar ninth. And Christopher Bell was the top 10. Daniel Hemrick 11th. Zane Smith 12th. Daniel Suarez 13th. 14th for Ryan Preece. 15th Josh Berry. 16th Mark Truex Jr. 17th for Kaz Grala. Eric Jones 18th. So that was as of Group A, and 18 cars were in that first group. Obviously, the next half of the field will be out in Group B on the racetrack. And we'll get to see how those times intertwine with one another here. As you see, Ryan Blaney will be the first, at least it looks as if he will be the first car to attend this group. The drivers who will be in Group B would consist of Ryan Blaney, Todd Gilliland, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric. Derek Kraus driving the 16 car this weekend for Colleague, making a Cup start for, I believe, the first time of his career. Kyle Larson, 24th. William Byron, or not 24th, I should say Kyle Larson, and the 24 car of Willie Byron also going to be in this group. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, all the Hendrick cars. Kyle Busch is going to be in this group. Chase Briscoe, Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, Harrison Burton, John Hunter Nemechek, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Corey LaJoie is going to be in Group B. Brad Keselowski, JJ Yeley, Chase Briscoe as well. So we have one more car in this second group. Yeley in the 44 for New York Racing is the only non-chartered entry to run this race this weekend. In the 16, again, for Colleague Racing, even though Derek Kraus is making his first career start, they are still running for owner's points and have a charter. So that 16 car will be at every track for the NASCAR Cup Series this season as well. Earl Arnold Jr., Zavidero Racer, thanks for tuning in. Ace Elshire, welcome into the stream as well. So quick update. Again, that first group that went out had a caution, so their time was extended, and that caution was due to Ryan Preece spinning in turns 1 and 2. Got into the outside wall. He was 14th on the charts of those that ran. He only made it 3 laps. Everybody else in that group ended up making it pretty much right around 20 laps. A couple of them just shy of that. A couple of them actually able to run about 20 to 25 laps in that session. So pretty good amount of on-track activity there. And now Group B is just starting up. We'll take our first ad break of the live commentary for this NASCAR Cup Series practice, and then followed by qualifying, all in this stream for the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas. You're listening on KRC. Once again, a reminder, this is taking place on Fox Sports 1 right now. So if you're wondering where you can watch practice and qualifying for the Cup Series, Fox Sports 1 is on the telecast.
Pretty cool. And we haven't shown it right now, but that was the 38 car that put some fresh tire marks on the wall coming off of turn 2.
Let's have a look.
Definitely into the fence.
Yeah, and what happens right there, when you come through the center of turns 1 and 2, you're back to the throttle really, really early, and that car will take off about the 3/4 of the mark through the corner, and the front tires will take off, and even if you lift, it just keeps going. Let's hear what he had to say.
Honestly, felt like Atlanta, just definitely check right rear motor. Oh, sorry. Got in there, got a little bit free, and then just lost the nose. I got too high.
Yeah, looks to me like it bent the right rear toe link, too. That right rear was towed out. It got into it pretty hard.
Well, here's your point leader. Kyle Busch, for the first time since winning his Cup championship, he is the leader of the NASCAR Cup Series on points.
First time RCR has been in the points lead in a long time, too. I mean, I think back Austin Dillon when he won his 500, but even before then, it's been a long time since they've been on top of that leaderboard. Looks good on them.
You see Kyle go through the middle of turns 1 and 2, and that has definitely been the preferred line for the whole field. And a lot of times that's a choice by the teams to say, hey, let's run up a lane so that we can run the car lower and not go over the bumps on the bottom. Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch's teammate.
So Group B drivers shown in white on our scoring pylon. We were saying before the break, Group A drivers at most tracks last year were at a disadvantage. The top 5 would make it to the final round, and the rest would end up deep in the pack because the speeds in Group B tended to be faster. Great article on NBCSports.com by Dr. Deandra about the whole qualifying thing and the inequities of the system as it was employed this year. Last year. This year, new system, and one that's going to be much fairer, because once the 10 make it to the final round, everybody else gets seeded according to how they are in their group. The Group A drivers will line up in the outside lane for the start of the race. Group B drivers on the inside lane instead of combining the times from the two. So,
well, and to your point, Chase Briscoe, who we're on board here with, is also the fastest, but that's his time right there in 7th. And when you look, he's the fastest in this group, and that's 0.3 different than the first group, and that's exactly what we were talking about in the first session. Those cars were going to be a lot faster because the track's greener, but once this rubber goes on the racetrack, the lap times just slow down, and this group is more realistic with what it's going to be like in the race, and that's why I always like going in Group B, no matter what the metrics say or anything like that. I knew what my teammate's car was doing.
I like that point right there.
It just made me a lot more comfortable, and this is not a comfortable racetrack, and these guys are doing it for the first time this year. The speed is high, the corner speeds are high, it's rough, and a very technical racetrack with the fall-off and everything that happens. So, to me, I always wanted to be in Group B, and I think today, being that it's 0.3 of a second different, is going to give you a much better read on your car, and they haven't had a caution yet to break this session up and cycle the tires. So, in my opinion, these guys are getting a better idea of what their car is going to do on a long run and a short run.
Yeah, that cycle on the tires is a big thing for all these guys. A lot better read on their tires from behind the wheel. A lot better read on their tires when they get in and get that tire read. Through the tire guy. Not only air pressure buildups, but the wear as well.
Well, everybody's looking at Hendrick Motorsports, and particularly Kyle Larson, the success that he has had on this racetrack since joining Rick Hendrick. HMS has 9 Las Vegas wins, and last year swept the race and all the stages. 3 spring race wins in a row.
Well, pretty much taking care of business right there.
That tells part of the story, and so do our scoring monitors here. With Kyle Larson's at the top of the best consecutive 5-lap average, the best consecutive 10-lap average, and I would assume that he's going to be somewhere near the top on 15 if he decides to stay out there that long.
He's just not there yet.
Yeah.
Fast race cars, his teammate right behind him, William Byron.
All right, now the driver who is second in the best consecutive 15 laps of this practice is with Jamie.
And that's Bubba Wallace. What a start to the season. He's the only driver that has finished in not only the top 10, but the top 5 both races. So, Bubba, how do you take that momentum, that confidence that you guys are building into a place like this, the bread and butter of the series?
Yeah, I'm going to use the motivation from last night. Oh, Raja getting the job done. That was awesome. Got me excited to get in the car and try to one-up him. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But so proud of him. But yeah, it's good to get to a mile and a half, first one of the year for us. Toyotas are strong. The first group is stacked, so we're all going against ourselves here. Got to be better than them, but our Columbia Toyota Camry's pretty strong. I was a little loose to start, tightened it up a little too much, so we're kind of finding in the middle, but she's fast, so got to take care of it. The bumps are treacherous. This place will scare the hell out of you if you're not ready for it.
Congratulations last night. He's been a mentor to Raja Caruso. That was a big moment for Bubba and everybody involved with Raja last night, Mike.
Well, you called it, Jamie. It was a big night for the 71. The 21-year-old Winston-Salem State University senior won the pole and won the Craftsman Truck Race last night.
Big race for him, big race for all of us. I mean, him being behind the wheel of that race truck, the Hendrick, and being underneath the Hendrick umbrella, Kevin, that's a huge opportunity for him, and he's knocking it out of the park so far.
Raja was scheduled to do 10 races under Hendrick sponsorship, and after last week's performance, they expanded that to the full season.
Well, yeah, they better. He's in the playoffs now.
9.5 minutes to go in Group B practice. Then we'll get set for qualifying.
It's kind of a wise decision. He was only scheduled to run 10 races in that race truck, but now because he's running the full season, he is playoff eligible. So that's a pretty smart move on their behalf, just by way of standings, let alone obviously getting that win a few races into the season. We will be streaming later today as well. The NASCAR Xfinity Series coverage will begin at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So again, 5 p.m. Eastern, a little over 2 hours from now, we will have live commentary coverage. Long race, only 977 laps to go. Yeah, it just shows like a random lap counter, essentially, how many laps have been ran by the person at the top of the charts, which right now is Ross Chastain, so you'll see that every weekend. It's unlimited laps to go, I think, just so that way the raw feed doesn't end up like disabling or something after a certain amount of laps. So right now, the fastest 6 were all in Group A. Fastest in Group B thus far has been Chase Briscoe. He has only ran 7 laps so far, as we should have less than 10 minutes to go in this second and final group. And then qualifying obviously will start soon thereafter. Getting to listen into some of the interviews from drivers throughout the course of the broadcast. You will get more interviews with these streams than what you would during the race itself, obviously. With having opportunities to catch up with drivers who are not in the car currently. As you heard from Bubba Wallace, you also heard from Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe a little bit earlier on in the broadcast. I'm sure we'll get more interviews along the next hour or so that we will be live streaming this coverage of practice and qualifying again at Las Vegas for the NASCAR Cup Series. We'll take our second ad break here and then continue our live commentary coverage on the other side. You're listening live on KRC. Silent Owl Scribe, also thanks for tuning in. Michael Turner, thanks for watching. How was Gregson second? Yeah, second fastest. The SHR Fords look pretty quick, though, because Briscoe is fastest in his group right now, and he's 7th. Ryan Preece ended up going for a spin a little earlier, so he's going to be scored 24th, but he will not partake in qualifying. He'll be headed to a backup car and start at the rear of the field tomorrow. So of the 37 cars that have shown up, as long as we don't see any more incidences in Group B, then we will have 36 of the 37 cars that will actually partake in qualifying, which would mean 17 in Group A, and then Group B will have 19 cars.
10 and 15 lap averages. 5 laps, Larson Byron. 10 laps, Larson Byron. 15 laps, Larson Byron. Gregson and Reddick third in those categories.
All right, Mike, you asked me at the top of the show, coming on, who to keep an eye on. We knew that William Byron and Kyle Larson were going to be fast. They were last year. Looks like they picked up right where they left off. Look at 23:11 on that best consecutive 15. Right behind them, Reddick and Wallace. And then right shortly behind them, Kyle Busch. I told you, keep an eye on Chase Elliott. Let's see what he can do. Can he match the speed in those race cars? He's close, but still has some work to do.
You're right. And when we look at these charts and Kyle Larson and everything he does, he talks about being able to run that car freer. But when you look at the lap count, that tells you who's comfortable in their car. And Alex Bowman has only run 11 laps compared to his teammates who are out there and have run consecutively over 20.
Who's missing in this? Who's missing in this conversation?
Well, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski.
Fords.
All Mustangs.
And that's a big name Ford name drivers, and they're all struggling a little bit. I'm going to tell you that Logano is probably their best car in 18. Flip side of that is you see Michael McDowell in that front row motorsports still running pretty good. Had 2 good races so far. I think that progression and momentum is going to carry on.
Well, we see Blaney pop up in the 15 lap average and the 20 lap average. So Blaney's 3rd in the 20 lap average and 8th in the 15, which that's good. And usually these guys, especially from the Ford camp, it seems like they pick up when it comes to qualifying time. So we'll see if that can happen today.
And on the downside, Harrison Burton, something wrong with the Wood Brothers car. They're half a second off, and they've had the car jacked up looking for answers there. Todd Gilliland got up into the wall. J.J. Yaley finally got on track for a couple of laps. They failed inspection twice, pre-practice inspection. And Larry, NASCAR went to eject the car chief on the number 44 for failing inspection twice. And what happened?
They didn't have a car chief. They ejected the crew chief.
Okay.
But he can still crew chief the Xfinity Series car that he's supposed to look after today.
Okay.
You got anything to do tomorrow, Larry?
I'm good. I'm good right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you realize how much hairspray I'd have to use to keep this hair locked down out there?
We just get you a hat, Larry. I'm in the same, well, not necessarily the same boat, but Clint would make you think that I'm close.
All right, so here's Brad. He is 28th overall. Last lap, 30:41. Best lap, 29:95. And that's not good news. Coming in here, Brad Keselowski. Well, let's have a look at the points and some of the fellows who are pleasant surprises early on in the season. And here's the other side of that coin.
These guys are in a big hole, and when you look at Joey Logano and Austin Dillon and Brad Keselowski, those are the guys that we really need to see something good out of this weekend to start to dig out of that hole. They'll tell you it's only 2 weeks, but that's a lot of points and a long ways behind in a hurry.
And Tyler Reddick's on that list, but he's got speed here. He's going to be fine here.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't mention it.
I think he can get right back in the game this weekend. As a matter of fact, only 16 points behind 16th place. That's doable this weekend. Austin Dillon, that poor guy. It's a handful of laps, and he's been in both cautions so far. Just got caught up in some bad scenarios. Need to get things turned around here. With the speed those RCR cars have, he just may do.
Joey Logano's had a fast car both weeks. Has little to show for him in the final result.
He's been in the shop, though. You keep knocking on that door, she'll open.
Well, that's a whole different game this week with the type of racetrack that we're on, and the rules package and everything is different than we ran at Daytona and Atlanta. And those guys are good to go at those racetracks. They don't have anything to show for it, but sometimes those are just the circumstances. But it's like we talked, you gotta have it figured out here, because this is an important piece to the puzzle to be able to put your season together appropriately.
And Logano, Larry reminds me, has not scored a single stage point. And, you know, when stage racing first came about, we didn't put much thought into stage points early in the season. That kind of take care of himself. And then Mark Truex goes on a tear and runs the table for stage points. And now everybody, beginning with Daytona, is looking at how important those stage points are with trying to make the playoffs. And
Mindful of 2 wild card starts to this year, right? 2 super speedways to start off the year throws everything for a frenzy. When we come here to Las Vegas, now we're down to business. You're going to see the consistency start showing up within these stage points, within the organizations, and we'll be able to get a good feel for the speed in each organization and furthermore the teams within. So I'm looking hard to the stage points for sure this weekend, who can earn them, and then where you can seal the deal with a finish at the end.
Well, as we watch William Byron go around the racetrack here, the one thing I will tell you about those guys that are in trouble in the points, it becomes annoying, because after a few races, right now they go off of last year's points, but those guys that are buried in the points, next thing you know, they got to go through inspection late. They got to, if it rains, you're going to have a bad starting spot. So there's a lot of things that just become annoying for the team. It's not that they can't dig themselves out of a hole, but on board with Corey LaJoie here, and you see him working that wheel through turns 1 and 2, and he's going to go down here. We're going to use this sign hanging over the racetrack as our lift point. Head to the bottom of the racetrack, and he's up higher than he wants to be, out of the throttle, coming into pits.
This is the first time in Corey's career that he's had 2 consecutive top 15 finishes.
Off to a great start. Yep. You see him practicing that coming into the pits, pretty charged pretty hard there down through the gearbox. Very important. Do not get caught speeding in a green flag pit stop. It will ruin your day.
Less than 30 seconds to go in Group B of practice. We'll go through the finishing order through our practice session. Ross Chastain tops the speed charts again with a 30.539 as well. Sorry, that was his last lap. His best time, 29.305, which got him to the top. And again, an average lap speed, of 184.269 miles per hour. His fastest lap took place on lap 2 of his run. A few others in the top 10, right around lap 6, lap 7. But most of the top of the speed chart drivers were in that Group A, and they also ran with that time within the first couple laps of their run. So Chastain at the top, Noah Gragson second, Ty Gibbs third, Tyler Reddick fourth, Denny Hamlin fifth, Bubba Wallace sixth. Again, they were all in Group A. Fastest in Group B was Chase Briscoe. He's 7th overall. William Byron 8th. Kyle Larson 9th. Byron Larson topped the charts in 5, 10, and 15 lap averages. So long run speed, I think, is going to be the key for those two coming up tomorrow. Look out for them. Behind them, Chris Buescher gets a top 10 in practice as well. Michael McDowell 11th. 12th for Alex Bowman, Carson Hocevar 13th, Chase Elliott 14th, Corey LaJoie 15th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 16th, Kyle Busch 17th, Joey Logano fastest Penske in 18th, 19th for Christopher Bell, Daniel Hemrick in 20th, Ryan Blaney 21st, Zane Smith 22nd, Daniel Suarez 23rd, 24th for Austin Cindric, Josh Berry 26th, Martin Truex Jr. 27th, Brad Keselowski 28th, 29th for Austin Dillon, Justin Haley 30th, 31st for John Hunter Nemechek, Kaz Grella 32nd, Eric Jones 33rd, Derek Kraus 34th, Todd Gillen 36th, and Harrison Burton, Todd Gillen 35th, excuse me, Harrison Burton 36, JJ Yeley 37, and those were the 37 cars in order of their top and fastest time through their practice session. Practice is concluded, qualifying will begin very shortly, and all the drivers from Group A will partake in qualifying first. Group B will then after them follow, and we'll get to see how this is going to transpire here over the next half hour or so. Jim Troyer, thanks for tuning into the stream as well. We'll take another ad break and continue our live commentary coverage of the Pennzoil 400 practice of qualifying from Las Vegas. I put up in the chat as well that I love Logano's scheme this weekend. It looks very reminiscent of Steve Park's early 2000s DEI #1 car paint scheme with the Pennzoil colors. Of course, this is the title sponsor for the race, so a big weekend for Logano. He's a 3-time winner of the spring race at Las Vegas, so look out for Joey Logano this weekend. He was one of the fastest Fords. The only problem with that is, again, 18th overall on the charts. And although Group B didn't seem to be up to par with Group A, maybe the wind might have gotten even gustier, which could have been the case. Whatever the case was, though, the Ford's definitely lacking through segment #1. So it's going to be tough to see how the Fords are going to put up. Although, was saying that Noah Gragson was 2nd overall on the leaderboard. The SHR Fords maybe not quite as bad as the Penske cars. This is, again, the first intermediate track of the season with the new Mustang body. Toyotas have a new body as well in the Camrys, although the Toyotas look pretty strong overall in practice. Outside of the Hendrick Chevys and even the Trackhouse Chevy, obviously, of Ross Chastain, which I don't think they really mentioned much, even though he was the fastest in his group. The 3 Chevys I think to look out for tomorrow are probably going to be the 5, the 24, and the 1. I would probably stay away from Fords as far as the fantasy aspect goes. There's a big question mark there. Maybe if you want to use an underdog, it's like a garage pick, you can maybe take a Noah Gragson or a Chase Briscoe just because you're probably not going to use them as many times this season. Group A is going to set the outside row for rows 6 through 20 based off qualifying. And Group B, the inside row, that is the change and the only change that has been made to qualifying this year. The top 5 from each Group A and Group B will re-qualify to set the top 10 in the running order, and that part has not changed based off of where we had group qualifying in last year's races. So group qualifying again for the first time this season, as we are now off the super speedways, and Noah Gragson will be the first driver to try to put up a lap time, as he was, again, the 2nd fastest overall in practice. See if he can maintain that speed and try to get himself into the 2nd group potentially. Only the top 5 of these first 18 will move on. And again, Ryan Preece crashed in practice, so he was set to roll off 5th. That will not be the case anymore. So there will only be 17 drivers vouching for these 5 positions in this first group. The order, we will have Gragson out first, followed by Zane Smith, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and then Josh Berry will be the first 5 drivers to hit the racetrack for qualifying. Single car, 1 lap per driver to set their fastest time. Practice is 20 minutes for each group, but Group A had an extended practice due to the caution that came out very early for Ryan Preece. I think they extended it 3 or 4 minutes, which was pretty much about the length of the yellow. So usually you wouldn't see it extend, but in that circumstance, they wanted to extend it to, just in case, give an equal amount of on-track activity time for the Group A participants, as well as, of course, the Group B, which ended up going caution-free for their 20 minutes. We're almost at 50 likes already. About halfway through the stream. Practice done. Qualifying about to kick off. We're at 49 likes. So be sure to hit that like button if you guys haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content. Trying to close in on 5,000 subscribers still on the channel. That is going to be our next goal to reach on the channel. Again, trying to get to 5,000 subs. So hit that subscribe button if you guys have not done so yet. We have live commentary every NASCAR race weekend for the NASCAR Truck Xfinity Cup Series races, as well as what you're watching right now, NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying. Jamie Little standing in with Michael McDowell.
Front row the last 2 races. So what do you expect here at Las Vegas?
Well, we definitely have a little bit of work to do on our Love's RV Stop Dark Horse Mustang. Just getting the balance right. I think the potential's there. Just missed the balance a little bit. But right now, you need a lot of confidence to go out there and try to hold it wide open. It's fast here at Las Vegas. It's a lot of fun. But, yeah, definitely one of those places that still takes your breath away, especially for this hopefully 2 laps in qualifying.
All right, good to see you. Good luck.
Michael McDowell on the front row for the first 2 weeks of the season, on the pole last week at Atlanta, where he scored his first career pole in his NASCAR Cup Series career, at least, and then second for the Daytona 500 as well. So qualifying's been good to McDowell this year. We'll see if he can get in Group B for the 3rd race to start 2024. His teammate Todd Gillen as well has had good qualifying runs getting into the second group of both Daytona and Atlanta qualifying sessions. A little bit of damage, though, to his teammate Todd Gillen, who was in that second group. There was no caution, but he got up against the outside wall and definitely has a little bit of damage on the right side of the race car, so we'll have to wait and see if he will actually get a qualifying lap in. But he has time to fix it, or the team has time to fix it again. They were in that second group, so they'll be working on his car up until the end of this one. Middle groove for Noah Gragson, who's the first car on the racetrack in turns 1 and 2, not going down to the bumps on the bottom. We'll probably see him try to pin the inside of the racetrack, though, through turns 3 and 4. On that white line, that's exactly going to be the case. So that's probably going to be the line for a lot of these drivers, trying to stay in the middle of 1 and 2, down to the bottom in 3 and 4. And Kevin Harvick kind of prefaced to that in practice just a little bit, that would be the smooth line to run for the first couple of laps out in practice to get a feel for things. And obviously that's the line Gragson took for qualifying. 29.795 lap time for Gragson on his first lap of qualifying. Zane Smith now on the racetrack as he hits the start-finish line to begin his lap. He's going to go to the apron at the start of the lap. Gragson went to the apron coming across the start-finish line at the end of his lap, but Smith going to the apron to begin the lap, and I'm sure he will to end. We'll see if that makes a difference here. And as of right now, Smith is doing a pretty good job running out in front of Gragson. Taking that shortcut may have worked for him. We'll see how the handling is through turns 3 and 4. Down to the white line. Pushing a little tight off the exit of the corner, but able to stay in the gas, and Zane Smith will go to the top of the charts. Significantly faster than Gragson, over a 10. 29.620 for Zane Smith. And up next now is Tyler Reddick, the first Toyota to hit the track for qualifying. Reddick was in the top 5 in practice overall. And we'll see if he can get to the top 5 of this group so he can have a second run and a shot at the pole here today. Reddick again through turns 1 and 2 in the middle. Pacing fairly equal, maybe a little bit ahead of where Zane Smith is at, or was at, during his lap, based off the ghost car on the Fox graphic, again taking place for qualifying. Reminds me of my early days of playing multiplayer with the early NASCAR EA Sports games. Whenever I'd have like somebody at my house and we'd be going side by side, you'd have the ghost car for the other one, so it didn't intermine with your qualifying lap. So that whenever they show that, it reminds me of my early days of playing the NASCAR games with the ghost car. It's like the only time you really had that ability to be a ghost car. Christopher Bell next on track. Reddick is at the top of the 3 that have ran. 29.587 for Reddick. 29.3 was the fastest lap in practice for Chastain. It's going to be tough to see a lap that quick, though. They have to use the same tires that they ran in practice on the qualifying per rule. So lap time from practice, again, is going to be very tough to beat. Although Christopher Bell, very close to beating Chastain's lap time. He got into the 29.3s, about 600ths of a second off of Chastain's fastest lap in practice. So Bell, with a 29.373, 0.2 quicker than Tyler Reddick, an affiliated and Toyota teammate. That lap, I think, is going to hold up. If it doesn't stay at the top in Group A, I definitely don't see Bell falling out of the top 5 at the very least. Josh Berry next on the racetrack. And it looks like he's going to time in 4th quickest of a 29.647, right ahead of his teammate Noah Gragson, who was the first on the racetrack. 2 Toyota, Chevy, 2 Fords, your top 5 in qualifying so far through the first 5. Ryan Preece, who was next to hit a lap again, will be skipped. He'll be starting last in the field tomorrow due to crashing in practice earlier today. So that's why he's not making a qualifying lap. Only 3 laps for Preece before his crash. Eric Jones is up next. Had a sketchy moment in qualifying last week at Atlanta, trying to get the handling dialed in through practice today, which they did not have last week. And so far, looking pretty good for Jones. Again, Legacy Motor Club making the switch to Toyota. And although the Legacy cars weren't in the top 5 to top 10 like the other Joe Gibbs Racing and 2311 Toyotas were, Jones picks up from practice to qualifying, and he will be right there behind his Toyota affiliated teammates of Bell and Reddick. It'll be Jones' 3rd fastest with a 29.620. Same exact lap time to the 1,000th of a second that Zane Smith ran, but a little bit faster than that, I guess, based off of the interval behind the decimal in the second after the 1,000th mark. Carson Hocevar is now on the racetrack for Spire. Second Spire car to be in this session. Corey LaJoy, the 3rd car from Spire Motorsports, will be in Group 2. Hocevar definitely looking quicker than Noah Gragson. He'll jump into the top 5, and he'll actually split up the Toyotas a little bit. Second fastest for Hocevar, 29.479. He did qualify top 10 in the Daytona 500 a couple weeks ago in a super speedway. More speed in qualifying, it looks like, for Hocevar again this weekend. And now Daniel Hemrick, the first colleague car to hit the racetrack, as he is the 8th car to qualify out of Group A, out of the 17 that will actually make a lap. Got the South Point Casino and Resorts paint scheme. I've always liked that paint scheme. Back in the Xfinity days, where Brendan Gaughan Truck Series as well, where he'd run that paint scheme. I always liked it. Very underrated paint scheme. They're out of Las Vegas, so obviously hence the paint scheme this weekend for that car. They've been the title sponsor of the summer/second Las Vegas race for the last several years as well, since they've been having 2 Las Vegas dates for the Cup Series. Hemrick's slowest of the 8, though, that have hit the track so far of a 29.936. So again, Hemrick 8th. Full screen commercial break now on Fox Sports 1. And so we will take another break on our side as well. Again, you're listening live, KRC. We got qualifying going on right now at Las Vegas for the Pennzoil 400. Again, that race will be taking off tomorrow. Our coverage will begin at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon. We still have Xfinity Series coverage coming up later today as well in about 2 hours' time, 5 p.m. Eastern time for the start of our NASCAR Xfinity coverage. All 3 series at Vegas this weekend. We won't see any standalone dates for the Trucker Xfinity Series until we get into the summer months of the season. Bell's still the fastest of this first group, a 29.373. Only 2 drivers were able to run 29.3s in practice, and that was Gragson and Chastain. And unfortunately for Gragson, he has not qualified nearly as well as what he was in practice. He will not go into the second group, and he'll be starting again on the outside lane, as everybody else outside of the top 5 from this first group will start. Couple more Fords to come. The next cars to hit the racetrack will be Kaz Grala, Denny Hamlin, Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr. will be the next 5. After them, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, and Daniel Suarez. That will be the remaining 9 drivers to try to jump into the top 5 and get a second run at qualifying if they make it out of this first group. Sarah India, thanks for tuning in. What happened to Gregson? He went so fast at practice. Yeah, I think it's the long run speed. Again, they had to use the same tires from practice and qualifying, and the Fords were lacking in long run pace compared to the Hendrick Chevy specifically, as well as the Toyotas. So I think that's why you saw Gregson at the top. Maybe he has good short run speed and the handling not there in the long run after running 20-something odd laps on practice with these tires, and obviously now is back at 7. So if I had to determine why he was fast at practice and not in qualifying, that would probably be the case. Gregson, a Las Vegas native, was hoping to get a good starting spot on Sunday, but that will not be the case. And we'll see at least if he can hold on to something respectable here over the course of qualifying. Kaz Grala is on the racetrack right now, the 15 for Rick Ware Racing. He was in this car last week as well. And he's actually running his 3rd of the first 3 Cup races so far this season. A little bit of a moment in turns 3 and 4 compared to where Zane Smith ran. They were pretty equal, and I think he had to lift a little bit extra in the center of the corner. Maybe he felt the car coming out from underneath him. Slows his time down significantly. He does not make the top 5. 29.795, 8th fastest of the 9 drivers for Grala. Next Toyota, Denny Hamlin on the racetrack, and I would imagine he could be a threat to get into the top 5 here, considering the only other 3 Toyotas to hit the track so far are in the top 5 of Jones, Reddick, and then Bell at the top of the charts. Hamlin pacing well. It looked like he was lacking a bit on the front stretch. Maybe not a great get-up-to-speed lap, but great corner handling through 1 and 2. 3 and 4, not as strong as Zane Smith, and I think Hamlin had to lift a little bit extra too there, and that's going to cost him a spot at the top 5, as Hamlin's going to be 7th fastest. Again, the wind, 55-mile-per-hour gusts. So it's very at random, I guess, as far as how gusty the winds will be as each driver hits the racetrack for their qualifying lap. And Hamlin slows down, much like Grala, in 3 and 4. And we'll see if Michael McDowell can partake in a good lap time. He's off to a good start through turns 1 and 2. Trying to get into that second session of qualifying for the 3rd time already this season. McDowell is pacing well enough, at least ahead of Zane Smith, and he might have a shot here at the top of the charts. I don't think he's going to quite be that fast. It's going to be close. 2nd fastest. Wow. 29.413 for McDowell as he continues his good qualifying performances. It's going to be tough to knock him out of the top 5. Again, 2nd fastest overall right now for McDowell. And Ty Gibbs, another Toyota, up next. Hamlin was tracking well ahead of Zane Smith, had that hiccup. That also knocks Eric Jones out of the top 5 with McDowell moving in. Jones is now 6th and will miss out on the first group. Both the Spire cars still hanging on right now inside the top 5, although there have only been 3 Chevys so far to qualify in this first group. A lot of the Chevys will be in Group B. Chastain Suarez, the only 2 Chevys that still have to hit the track. So of the 17 cars to make a qualifying lap here, only 5 Chevys of those 17. Ty Gibbs to the top. Still not quite to Chastain's practice lap time, but a 29.356, enough to get to the fastest for Gibbs. Knocking Bell McDowell down a spot for now. Gibbs looking to make it into session 2. His teammate, Martin Truex Jr., is now on the track. A lot of Toyotas in this first group. Of the 8 at the racetrack this weekend, 7 of them are on the track right now. John Hunter Nemechek will be the only Toyota in Group B. Truex well faster than Reddick, who is currently 5th. And Truex will now be 3rd fastest. So 3 Joe Gibbs Toyotas, 1, 2, 3 right now. 29.392 for Truex. Jamie Little standing in with Brad Keselowski on pit road.
For qualifying. line here?
We were real loose in practice, Jamie, but we've done some changes to the Salmon Plumbing floor, tightened up a little bit, get ready for this round. You got to commit. So you can't qualify fast in Vegas if you don't commit. So we'll see if my teammate sets a good benchmark to go chase.
All about the commitment, Mike. We're hearing that a lot.
Absolutely.
And his teammate, as he just mentioned, Chris Buescher, is on the racetrack right now. Buescher pacing well enough to beat the 17 of Hocevar. Cars just keep getting faster and faster as we work our way down the qualifying order. And Buescher to the top. Wow, a Ford up there. Breaking up the Toyotas. 29.335. About 21 one-thousandths of a second ahead of Ty Gibbs. A little over 200ths. And that will lock Buescher into Group 2 as we only have 3 more cars to go. Buescher, Gibbs are locks for the second group. Bell, Truex, and McDowell on the bubble, with Wallace, Chastain, and Suarez still to qualify. Wallace on the track right now and doesn't seem to be pacing as well as McDowell, which is where his teammate Tyler Reddick is currently at. So the Joe Gibbs Toyota is noticeably faster than the 2311 Toyotas of Wallace and Reddick, although Bubba stays in the gas quite a bit through 3 and 4, and he's making a second charge at it. I thought he was not going to get it, but he does get it. A great turns 3 and 4 for Bubba Wallace. Was probably able to hold full throttle. Risky move. It pans out for him. He's 4th right now with just 2 cars to go. That will lock Bell into the second session. And the Trackhouse cars of Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez are next. First Chastain as he starts his lap at the line. It's interesting to see what drivers go to the apron and what drivers don't when they make the start of their timed lap. Not everybody is doing that, though a lot of drivers are, obviously, pretty much every driver is going to do that, at least coming to the conclusion of their lap, taking that extra shortcut, but getting up to speed could be a little bit different. And Chastain is not going to make it into Group B. He's going to be behind Truex, who's still on the bubble. 4 Toyotas of the 7 that have hit the track inside the top 5, but not at the top of the charts. Again, Chris Buescher currently the fastest time. Suarez is on the track now. Chastain was 9th fastest in this first group, 29.592. And he's going to be starting in either row 9 or 10 on the outside lane for tomorrow. And it looks like Suarez is not going to be able to keep up with the Toyotas either. Chastain was fastest in practice, but that speed does not translate here into qualifying. Couple tenths off of where he was at, although his last lap speed in practice was kind of similar to where he's at right now, the 29.5. Suarez a little bit faster than Chastain, 8th fastest, 29.534. Again, 29.534 for Daniel Suarez, and that will conclude Group A. The 5 drivers in the top 5 through Group A, again, Chris Buescher at the top with a 29.335. He'll qualify again, as well as Ty Gibbs, who was 2nd, Christopher Bell 3rd, Bubba Wallace 4th, Martin Truex Jr. 5th. Again, those 5 drivers will get to qualify for the pole in Group B. And those Group B drivers will be next to hit the track here very shortly. Overcast skies at Las Vegas right now with the extremely high winds. Melinda Leverett, JoJo, Bond 1771, thanks for tuning in. Wind is definitely making a huge difference in the lap times here. Alrighty, have more views on this qualifying session than what we had at Atlanta last week, so appreciate everybody tuning in here. Slightly later start time, though, for this, with it being on the West Coast. They were 12:30 local time last week. Local time this week, about 11 a.m., but on the Eastern time zone, this obviously taking place about an hour and a half after where we had qualifying last week. It does help we had a practice session in there as well, but again, appreciate everybody tuning in right now. Got about 100 concurrent viewers, 58 likes. Be sure to hit that like button. Again, Group B is about to hit the racetrack. Group A is done. And the top 5, again, from that first group, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., and I forgot who else was in there. Michael McDowell, also. Michael McDowell in that group. Or, sorry, no. It disappeared on me. Now I'm having to remember. I already repeated it right the first time. Hopefully you were listening a couple minutes ago when I first updated that. It's not McDowell. J.J. Yaley going to be the first car to hit the track for Group B, followed by Derek Kraus, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Austin Dillon. They will be the first 5 to make a lap time again in this second session of qualifying. 19 cars in the second group, 2 more than what we had in Group A, and the reason being is because, well, there was 37 cars in the field, so this group is automatically going to have 1 more than Group A anyway. But also, again, Ryan Preece unable to make a lap. Cheyenne, I do remember you, and thanks for tuning in as well. So J.J. Yaley making his first Cup start this season. He failed to qualify for the Daytona 500 with New York Racing a couple weeks ago, which would have been his first start. Attempted and obviously did not race his way in. Was beat out by Jimmy Johnson in their dual race, which was dual race number 1 on that Thursday night. And it doesn't actually look like Yaley is going to make a lap. He is still locked into the show. Again, only 37 entries this weekend. So Yaley will not qualify, which means the 16 of Derek Kraus will actually be the first car on the racetrack. Kraus starting his lap, doesn't go to the apron. His teammate Daniel Hemrick in the first group was towards the bottom of the charts. So we'll see where Kraus is going to qualify himself at, as he will be making his first NASCAR Cup Series start this weekend at Las Vegas. Saw Josh Williams and AJ Allmendinger race in this car already this season. This is the 3rd driver in the first 3 points races to start in the 16. 30.173 for Kraus. Not very fast. A lot of 29-second lap times in that first group. I would have to imagine Kraus is going to be towards the bottom of the charts. And Brad Keselowski will be next. Fords were lacking quite a bit in practice, especially the RFK Fords and the Penske Fords, but then again, Chris Buescher in qualifying got to the top. Keselowski not as fast as Buescher's lap time. He's about 0.3 off from where Buescher was. Buescher had a 29.335. Keselowski 29.689. But you only have to be the fastest 5 in your group to make it into a second lap of qualifying through the second session. I still don't think that time's going to hold up for Keselowski, but the Group A cars were faster noticeably in practice, so I wonder if that'll be the case here for qualifying as well. We'll just have to wait and see as we get more cars on the track. Keselowski's former teammate, Joey Logano, is on the track right now. He's qualified on the front row in the first 2 races this season, trying to make it 3 in a row. McDowell will not have that shot to do it as he was bumped out on the last qualifying attempt, or one of the last attempts through that first group. Logano definitely looking like he's going to be quicker than Keselowski, and we'll see how fast it will be. He's more than 0.3 quicker than Brad. 29.348. That's a pretty fast time for Logano, excuse me. Logano to the top of the 3 that have qualified from the second group. Again, a 29.348. And I believe that would have been second fastest, only behind Chris Buescher from that first group as well. So that's a very respectable time for Logano, and he's looking as if that time should be able to hold up. I would imagine that time is going to hold up for a top 5 spot. I said that about Christopher Bell when he went, and he still ended up in the top 5, so I do feel that lap time is going to be tough to beat. Austin Dillon, second fastest of the 4 now, of a 29.498, as he has just concluded his lap. And up next, we'll see if Gilliland will hit the track or not. Again, he got the wall in practice, so he may not qualify. No, he is. Okay, so they have fixed the right side of the race car enough. It wasn't too hard of a hit. Todd Gilliland will make a lap time. We'll see if that affects qualifying at all. As he begins his lap, his teammate Michael McDowell will be starting in the 12th place position in tomorrow's race. Gilliland not looking to be anywhere near Logano's time, at least. And Gilliland's going to time in 4th. Still faster than Derek Kraus of the 5 cars, but 4th of the 5. 29.884 for Gilliland. And now Chase Briscoe is on the racetrack. I got to take my dog out real quick, so I'll play the audio of qualifying for you guys in the meantime.
That's what you like to see right through the center of that corner through 1 and 2. That smooth wheel compared to Brad Keselowski's wheel that was chopping all over the place. Nervous.
Listen to that thing pick up with that tailwind down the backstretch. Huge pickup of momentum. Was disciplined, gave up a little bit getting into the corner, prevailed up off the corner, kept it on the bottom. Good lap for Chase Briscoe.
Into the wind off turn 4, but he goes to the top of the chart. Great lap.
That baby rolled through 1 and 2. You heard it. Solid commitment. The car answered the call.
If there's a bullseye on any driver in Las Vegas, it is Kyle Larson. 2 wins here. Top 10 in 11 of his 15 starts. This has been his playground.
Yeah, nobody better really than him. And I'm going to add William Byron to that list. He's as dangerous as Kyle Larson now at any given racetrack. It's take your pick. Whoever wins, whoever beats who out of the last pit stop, we've seen win this race between those two, and I think you're going to see the same thing again tomorrow. Look at this. Great lap.
29-22, he pips Briscoe by 1,000.
About as close as our finish last week.
That's right. And all that will determine is the order in which they will qualify in round 2. Alex Bowman, also from Hendrick Motorsports. Top 3 in 2 of his last 3 races here, including his win 2 years ago. Brad Keselowski on the bubble. Telemetry showed Bowman had a lot more speed in 3 and 4 coming to green. And Bowman will bump Keselowski by about 1/10 of a second. So we are halfway through Group B qualifying. 3 Chevys and 2 Fords in the Fast 5.
The XFL and the USFL merged to create one powerful spring football league called the UFL. These players are going to play hard-nosed, passionate football. They're going to ball out. Spring football is here to stay. UFL season kicks off March 30th on Fox and ABC.
Known as a loving parent. Known for lessons that matter. Known for being a free spirit. No one wants to be known for cancer, but a treatment can be. Keytruda is known to treat cancer. FDA approved for 16 types of cancer. One of those cancers is advanced non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer, where Keytruda is approved to be used with certain chemotherapies as your first treatment if you do not have an abnormal EGFR or ALK gene.
Keytruda can cause your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body during or after treatment. This may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain, severe nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems.
All right, I'm back. I was trying to hold off until a commercial break because I figured it was coming soon. There were only a couple drivers that I missed qualify, which were actually the last 2 that hit the racetrack. Last 3, that hit the racetrack, and they all have timed into the top 5. Kyle Larson at the top of the charts, 29.227. That is the fastest lap that anybody has ran so far in qualifying from Group A and Group B. Chase Briscoe, faster than anybody in the first group, is second fastest, 1/1000th of a second behind Larson at a 29.228. Logano still third. Austin Dillon still fourth, and Alex Bowman now into the top 5 with a 29.575. So those are the fastest 5 as of right now. Next drivers to hit the racetrack in this order: Justin Haley, then John Hunter Nemechek, Harrison Burton, Corey LaJoie, William Byron, the next 5. And the final 5 after them will be Chase Elliott, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Cindric, Kyle Busch, and Ryan Blaney. Hopefully the ads weren't blowing your ears out there for a little bit. Sometimes the advertisements are louder than the actual the coverage of whatever you're watching before that. Nemechek on the track right now, and it does not look like Justin Haley's actually going to make a lap. Not sure on the reasoning why, but Haley, again, not making a lap. Joey Logano getting an interview with Jamie Little.
Fighting right now.
Probably the same as everyone else. It's pretty windy out there, and a little bit unpredictable. You can be so good in 1 and 2, and you get down to 3 and 4, and you're like, I think it'll be pretty good when I get here. And just couldn't turn quite good enough to get all the way down to the bottom. So gave up some speed there. It's gonna be close. I don't know if we'll make it or not on that one. This group seems to be pretty fast, so we'll see. Hopefully, cross our fingers at the Pennzoil Mustang gets to the second round. We can work on it a little bit, get a little better.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks.
So we got Nemechek on the track right now. That makes 2 cars in the second group not to qualify, so we may have 17 cars just like we did have in the first group to qualify. So again, Justin Haley, J.J. Yaley will be the 2 not to make a lap. Jonathan Nemechek is not going to make it into the top 5. 29.730 was his lap time, 7th fastest of the 9 qualifying participants in Group B. Harrison Burton, the next to hit the racetrack. He's had some good qualifying runs at Atlanta, Daytona. We'll see how that translates at Las Vegas. He was towards the bottom of the charts and was more than half a second off the rest of the pace, so something was definitely wrong with that 21 car in practice. Looks like they have gotten that fixed for qualifying as he looks to be up to speed at least through turns 1 and 2. But will it be enough speed to get into the top 5 and stay there to have a second lap at the pole? And it doesn't look like he's going to hold it down very well. Almost into the wall, it looked like off turn 4. He got very tight, pushed significantly, and that's going to hurt his lap time. 8th fastest of the 10 in the second group. So he'll be starting towards the back of the pack once we get these next several drivers to qualify. Corey LaJoie is up next. On deck is going to be William Byron, last year's winner of the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas. Hendrick Motorsports has won the last 3 races here, in the spring that is. Larson in 2021, Alex Bowman in 2022, and William Byron last season in 2023. Borsed's not racing this weekend, no. I did see he was supposed to run, I think, an Xfinity race this season, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be cool to see Borsed back in the car. He'll be 61 years old. Or he is 61, I should say. And if he's not now, I know he will be at least on race day. I think he's going to be set to run COTA, I believe. And maybe more races later this season. LaJoie in the top 5 for the time being. That's going to bump Bowman out. LaJoie, 4th fastest of 29.441. Pretty good time. The Spire Motorsport cars were up towards the top of Group A. None of them were able to hold on into the top 5, but pretty respectable times. They'll be starting top half of the field, and I would probably say the same for LaJoie. He will also start top half of the field. Harrison Burton's lap time is a 29.821. He is now 10th. LaJoie now back to 5th place. William Byron to the top of the charts, 29.195 as Byron just ran. So now William Byron is at the top of the grid, and that's the fastest time we have seen through practice and qualifying today. That's insanely fast, honestly. We might see somebody get into the 28s here in that second group if they can cool the engines off enough, because that was majorly fast. The top 3 cars now are faster than any of them that went through that first group. And Chase Elliott will time into the top 5 as well. Another Hendrick car up there. 5th fastest, 29.357. About 9/1000ths of a second behind Logano for 4th. And he beat Corey LaJoie by a little less than a 10th. We'll see if he can hold on, though. Still got several drivers to go. 4 more to be exact. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is the next one on the track, followed by Cindric, Busch, and Blaney. Through 1 and 2, Stenhouse not tracking to beat Elliott, but turns 3 and 4 has definitely been the make or break corner in qualifying today, based off the wind at the racetrack. Stenhouse just behind Elliott ahead of LaJoie, but behind Elliott still. Elliott beats him out by 0.06 of a second. Sixth fastest in Group 2, Group B for Stenhouse. Austin Cindric's up next, and he's going to the outside lane of the racetrack on his warm-up lap through 3 and 4, which we haven't seen anybody do today. We'll see if that's going to help him. Unless one of the cars did it that I wasn't paying attention to when I had to take my dog out a little bit ago. But of the other cars that have qualified other than those 3, I know that that has not been the case. He's very close to Elliott's lap time, and I'm sure this is going to come down, obviously, to 3 and 4 again, but we'll see if he can hold it. Full throttle, keep it steady down to the bottom, push it a little bit wide off the exit of the corner, but he is still pacing well to the apron. Austin Cindric into the top 5, and actually faster than his Penske teammate, Joey Logano. Bumps Logano back to 5th. Cindric is now 4th fastest. His time was a 29.309. 2 to go. Byron, Larson, Briscoe are locked into Group B's second session. Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, the last 2 in this first session to try to get to the top of the charts. And Busch lacking a little bit behind Logano to sneak into that top 5. If he fails to do so, then Cindric will be locked in, and it'll be down between Blaney and Logano, the Penske teammates, which should be a pretty good battle considering that the other teammate at Penske of Cindric is also in the top 5. So it's going to be very fun, I think, to watch Blaney take his qualifying lap because it's going to be right on the bubble of trying to make it out of this first group. Kyle Busch right with his teammate Austin Dillon, 1 spot behind him, 29.554 for Busch, 10th fastest in this group. He'll be starting either on the inside of row 10 or 11. I would assume Blaney will qualify ahead of him, but we have to wait and see. Blaney starts his lap at the line, going to the apron. Cindric did go all the way to the wall through turns 1 and 2. Nobody else has done that, and he is in the second group. He's locked into it. Logano with a faster turns 1 and 2 than Blaney. Blaney's going to have to make up some time in 3 and 4. He was slower than Logano in practice, but he was faster than Austin Cindric. Cindric, the fastest of the 3 Penske cars through qualifying. Logano's time will hang on, and Ryan Blaney will be a couple spots behind him. 8th fastest for Blaney, 29.438. Joey Logano holds on to the final spot to qualify his way into Group 2. So the 5 drivers who will make it into the second session of qualifying and will have another shot at a 1-lap time trial lap to get the pole award. William Byron tops this one with a 29.195, fastest overall of anybody, let alone Group B. Kyle Larson, 2nd fastest overall and 2nd fastest in Group B. Chase Briscoe, 3rd fastest overall, 3rd fastest in Group B. Austin Cindric and Joey Logano, again, are the top 5 as well. Cindric's time not as fast as the fastest time in the first group. And the same goes for Logano, but they will still have another crack at it. So for the 3rd week in a row, we'll see if Joey Logano can go for a pole to start the season. Needs to have better runs in the races, though. Will I ever go to a race? I will. So as far as like the commentary side of things, that will change on races I end up going to in person this year. Usually when I go to races, I only go to the Cup Series races anyway. So the likelihood of me being able to do practice and qualifying streams on a Friday or Saturday are still very high, even if I go to a race that weekend. I will make sure that I get the commentary for the Truck Xfinity races as well as the practice and qualifying for the races I go to in person if I'm not at the track for the actual event to participate. Won't be going to any at least early in the season. It'll be later in the year before I'll be able to get to one. Only tuned in for a bit on call. Well, appreciate you tuning in anyway, Wade. As well as everybody else that has tuned in. 63 likes so far. Be sure to hit the like button if you guys haven't done so yet. Hopeful, thanks for tuning in to the stream as well. Didn't see you in the chat just now. Again, our Xfinity Series coverage will be at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Xfinity coverage at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. About an hour and a half from now, and tomorrow's Cup Series coverage with our pre-race will begin at 3 p.m. Eastern. Take a quick ad break, and we'll get this final session of qualifying underway. 10 drivers to go for the pole yet.
Last lap. Mike does a much better job at that. And Clint got so excited and so jacked up, and it was just, that was all natural Clint. And he was going crazy. And I put my arm around him because I kind of got him. I'm like, oh, this is pretty exciting. And he's making me excited. And I didn't want to get in the middle of those two talking. So I just kind of let it all play out and watch the end of the race.
Well, thanks for leaving me room there. I mean, join Kevin every Tuesday and Thursday for NASCAR's #1 on the charts podcast. Great guests, biggest name in sports and entertainment. Happy Hour, presented by NASCAR on Fox, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you. I had a double clutch about 3 times to call, to actually get those cars to the line. But
I was trying to keep Clint on his side of the booth because he doesn't like when I block him like this. So I'm the blocker in this situation. But it was one of the most exciting finishes that I've obviously ever witnessed up there, or even in general. And to hear you guys call that, I was glad to be a race fan just sitting back and listening. So.
Well, it's just the sheer excitement of it, right? It was an exciting moment in NASCAR, and I was so happy for everybody involved. You knew the run was coming. You could feel the energy coming off of 3. We called it getting in. Kyle Busch made that awesome move to squirt that middle on those guys and pounce on that lead moment. And then you said it, Kevin, as soon as Bubba Wallace moved up and blocked Austin Cindric's lane, it was a 3-horse battle, and Mike was all over it.
Look at that. You had a little big brother moment there.
That was honestly... I think he was holding me down, and it was probably warranted. I was going through the window. I was so happy for these guys, so excited, and nobody knew who won. I thought Blaney had it. I really did. And boy, I was wrong.
And you said as much.
Yes. I thought I was right. I mean, and the other thing is we had the perfect spot. There was not a better seat in the house. It was glancing right over the top of that TV screen, and I saw the front of those hoods looking down on it. Reminded you of Cars, man. It's just, if he had a tongue on him, he could have won that thing, right?
Lightning McQueen.
We need a tether. We need a tether for him.
We'll get one. And we're going to run for the Busch Light pole next year of the 10 drivers that advance to the final round here in Las Vegas.
All right, so getting ready for Group 2 yet. A little bit of a cool down time for those drivers that participated in the second group, so that's why we got a little bit of a break, about 10 minutes of interval time between when that last session ended and when we will begin this next session. Once again, be sure to hit the like button if you guys have not done so yet on the stream. 63 likes still. And our leaderboard will update once we get our first car on track for the second group. Again, that is the results from the most recent group that was just out there. William Byron, Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano. It will be the 5 drivers from that group that will, again, have another chance. $29.1 for William Byron. I am curious to see if that lap time will pick up. 184.963 mile per hour average is faster than any lap ran today, practice or qualifying, for William Byron. There were only 5 drivers that were able to run a lap faster than Chastain's in practice, and that would have been the top 3 on the charts here, as well as Chase Briscoe's lap time in the first group. Put your picks in the chat for those of you that are in the comment section and in the live chat. Be sure to put your picks in for who you think is going to get the pole of these final 10. Cowboy should have stuck his tongue out. Yeah, maybe he would have won. Maybe he would have won. Or at least tied at the very least. All right. Got a little bit of downtime here. Something I didn't really look at through the first couple of races that they ended up focusing on through practice. Kyle Busch is the points leader through the first 2 races of the season. Obviously, the 2 drivers locked into the playoffs with wins early in the year. Byron winning the Daytona 500. Daniel Suarez winning at Atlanta last week. So they will be 2 drivers that will be in the playoffs. I didn't make any preseason predictions for who I thought was going to make the playoffs this year. I've done that the last several years. I didn't get around to that this season, so I didn't want to, do one after Daytona. With seeing how the season started already, it wouldn't have felt authentic, I guess. Monsters Eggman says Christopher Bell. Hopeful thinks it's going to be Kyle Larson. Left a little out there. Dan Bauer saying William Byron. Byron's got a lot of pulls in the Cup Series already. Let me look at this just to... Because even before he got his first career win, he was qualifying on the pole pretty consistent. I would have to believe he's got more pulls than wins. Try to look up his racing reference. While I do that, interviewing Larson right now.
I felt really good. I think there's still room for me to get speed, coming to the green, some shape into 3. All that should help. Hopefully some adjustments in the race car will make me turn just a little bit better to just carry more speed. So all in all, just happy with the speed in our 100cars.com Chevrolet, and so we can go a little bit faster than our teammate. He's always really good here qualifying, and would be nice to edge him out.
Listen how calm he is. That kid is fixing to put on a lap that is on the edge of out of control, right? And
Yours out of control.
Yeah,
The wind's out of control.
Speaking of that, I walked outside I ducked my head out just to see, and about blew me off the roof. It is unbelievable how hard the wind's blowing out here. Hard to show. You see the flags and stuff like that, but until you feel it, I mean, at home, we all know what a 55-mile-an-hour gust of wind is. That is extreme, to say the least.
I'll blow your beer right over.
Yep.
Well, you never let go of your beer, Mike. That's a rookie move right there.
I think being the fact that you are from Kansas probably have a little better idea.
We call that Tuesday.
What the wind feels like.
Yes, Dorothy.
Yes. So here's what the drivers are going through. You know what you had in the first round. You know that you've got scuff tires. They're going to tell you that the wind has picked up X amount of miles an hour. How hard can you drive it in turn 3? You know how you came to the green. If you weren't one of the drivers that came to the green wide open, you're probably going to give that a whirl this time, coming to the green and try to get that speed coming to the start-finish line. So as we heard Kyle talk, you've got to make a few adjustments. He doesn't like the shape of his arc into turn 3. He feels like he could get to the green a little bit better. So it's going to be interesting to see what that fast speed is and who can make the small adjustments, because it's going to come down to hundredths of a second to get this pole probably.
Because of the wind, we have crude graphics to show you. There's 4 Toyotas, then there's 4 Fords, and then there's 2 Chevys in this final qualifying round.
Well, what does that show you? The reason the Toyotas are first, they were the slow. We need to pick some speed up, find our speed in our Camrys. Look at the debris.
A lot of trash on the outside of the racetrack. Truex just mowed through with the high winds. It's going to be blowing that around. All what Austin Cindric did, figured I'm going to do the same thing. Run the top side of the racetrack all the way through. He's got a little bit of debris, a little bit of trash on the grill of this race car. They can't tape the grills on these Cup cars, so I would imagine that this is going to hurt him, although it could help. It's either going to help him or it's going to hurt him significantly. We'll have to wait and see. He'll be obviously the first driver, followed by Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace. He'll be the first 5. They were all in Group A, by the way, as well. So the Group A drivers first, and then the Group B drivers will be second. Truex with a 29.481. I do believe he picked up a little bit from where he was in the first group, but that time was not as quick as some of the fastest drivers in either group, at least of the top couple. And Bubba Wallace will be next, excuse me. So I guess the order you see on our screen right now is not the same order they're going out in the racetracks. So sorry for that. The Group A drivers will be first, though. That is a fact. Wallace picking up quite a bit through turns 3 and 4. He did the same thing on his first lap compared to a lot of those that ended up going in Group A. And Wallace does get quicker than Truex. 29.404. Next Toyota will be Christopher Bell, followed by Ty Gibbs, who will be the last Toyota. Descending order of how they finished off their respective groups. Bell a little bit behind Wallace's time through 1 and 2. How much will Bell pick up, if any, at all in 3 and 4? Wallace, he had a really good lap through 3 and 4, both in Group A and Group 2, so that's going to be tough to beat, at least for the other Toyotas, in my opinion. Bell not going to get there either, and he'll actually be a little bit behind his other teammate, Mark Truex Jr. Bell times in with a 29.580. It looks like he actually got a little bit slower from where he was in his first group, obviously because he was quicker than Wallace and Truex. So Wallace's lap time holding up for now. Ty Gibbs, the last Toyota to qualify today, will be out on the racetrack. Next 4, all Fords, and then the 2 Chevys of Larson and Byron will be the last 2 to go. Gibbs into turns 3 and 4, not going to pick up enough to beat the 23 of Bubba Wallace. Wallace has had some good runs on the 1.5-mile race tracks, the intermediate tracks over the last couple of years with 2311 racing, really with the next gen. And factoring in here in qualifying as he is the fastest Toyota. Gibbs third of the 4 in the second group, 29.484 for Ty. And now Chris Buescher is on the racetrack. Working his way through turns 1 and 2. Buescher was the fastest in Group A, but doesn't seem to be as quick as at least the top driver so far of Bubba Wallace. He's not going to pick up enough through turns 3 and 4. And he's going to split the Toyotas up a little bit, though. He's going to be right in between Gibbs and Bell. 29.520 for Buescher. He definitely slowed down a couple tenths on his lap. So we'll see if Wallace's time is going to hold. 0.3 of a second off of where William Byron was. It's all going to be dependent on how the wind is for these drivers in the second group, because they were faster than the Group A cars. At least the top 3 were considerably. So again, Buescher had the fastest time in Group A, is the 4th fastest of the 5 in Group A for Session 2. A little bit of a commercial break right now. I was looking up, by the way, before they cut to the action again. William Byron has 12 career poles. I assumed he had more poles than what he did wins. That is the case. He had 5 poles in 2019 before he got his first career win in 2020. He didn't have a pole in 2020, actually. And then he had 2 in 2021, 1 in 22, and he had 4 again last season. Has a shot to go for his first pole of 2023 and make it lucky number 13 on the season if he can get the pole here today. Again, he was the fastest overall through the first session, and obviously in Group 2. William Walton Jr., thanks for tuning in. It is pretty cloudy day. David Niehoff, Dale Opplinger, also welcome into the stream. Blaney said he's won races by almost that much. He has. Dale and Hopeful taking Kyle Larson for qualifying. Billy Kramer picking William Byron. More Byron picks. My thought is Bubba will win one this year. Yeah, I would probably say it'll be an intermediate track, because he was pretty fast on the intermediate tracks last season. He didn't get a win there. He did win at Kansas the season before that, in the playoffs too. And the 2311 Toyotas as a whole, because even Reddick had a couple wins on 1.5-mile racetracks in his, or I should say 2311 racing in general, not just Reddick. I mean, Kurt Busch won at Kansas in his short time with 2311 racing. Truex had some wins on intermediates last year. Denny Hamlin Toyota's pretty fast on race day, but that was also with the old body. We'll see if that translates with the body this year, and at least by way of qualifying on the first intermediate track of the season. It's looking like it, at least right now. It's amazing how far behind the Penske cars were in practice, but in qualifying they picked up considerably. Logano was 18th, and then Cindric and Blaney were outside the top 10, or outside the top 20, I should say, in practice. Got the final 5 cars about ready to hit the track. And Joey Logano is out there right now. Was 5th in his session. Going to the outside lane of the racetrack. And Cindric was the first car to do that. I haven't seen everybody do that in Group B, but we've seen a couple of them. Truex is one. He's second fastest still. Joey Logano pacing well through 1 and 2, but Wallace had a really good 3 and 4, so that is going to be the difference here. Although Logano, at least by way of the Ghost car, significantly ahead of Wallace. He does give up a little bit of that time through 3 and 4 to Wallace, but not enough of it to allow Wallace to stay at the top. So Joey Logano now has had the fastest lap, 29.291, and there's a chance Logano could get the pole for the 3rd consecutive race to start the season. By way of track position, this will probably be the most important of the 3 races to start up towards the front as well. His teammate Austin Cindric is next. Cindric better than Logano, at least through 1 and 2. Into 3 and 4. It's going to be close. By way of the Ghost car, these two are right on top of each other. Almost got into the wall off turn 4. I can't tell if he brushed it or not, because he lost a little bit of time off turn 4. He was pushing tight. Definitely tell he tried to stand in the gas as long as he could, and that allowed for Logano to hold on by 0.04 of a second. Chase Briscoe will be the final blue oval to hit the racetrack for qualifying. Briscoe was the fastest in Group B in practice as well. 3rd fastest in qualifying, only behind the Hendrick duo of the 24 and the 5. And Briscoe's lap time was faster than anybody in Group A. And right now, Group B, top 2 are both the Group B drivers that have hit the track so far. Briscoe getting his way off turn 4, not going to be able to keep up with Logano again. Joey's still at the top. Cindric's lap time at 29.333 in second, and Briscoe is timed in 4th behind Bubba Wallace at a 29.430. Kyle Larson and then William Byron are up next. Here's Larson.
We see him coming to the green, and we'll get these Ghost cars up.
The other thing that he wanted to do better is a little bit more arc into 3.
Larson's first round, 29-22.
It's all going to come down to turn 3. He said he wanted to make an adjustment. Let's see if the adjustment will pay off for him. Rolled the center better, but I don't think he can keep it down. It's going to be close, guys.
Second for Larson, 29-31.
Wow, Logano for the 3rd consecutive week is going to start on the front row, but there's still one man to knock him off the pole, and that is William Byron. 29.312 for Larson, almost 200ths behind Logano's lap time in this second group. The times have slowed down from Group 1 to Group 2. At least so far, Byron, who had a 29.195 in Group A, the fastest overall. That's why he's the last driver to go here in Group B, is not pacing well enough, at least into 3 and 4 on Logano. And for the second time in the first 3 races this season, Joey Logano will be on the pole. On Sunday, Byron times in fourth, 29.362. Briscoe is the only driver not to qualify in the top 5 of those that hit the track in Group B for qualifying. And here is your pole sitter, Joey Logano.
For tomorrow. Joey, you talked about making some adjustments. How disciplined did you have to be, and what kind of adjustments did you make on that second round?
Paul got her tuned up for me pretty good. I didn't think that was going to be enough because the second round just feels different, right? And you're in the car and you're like, it's not going to be good enough, but the tires fall off a little bit. And it's always important to start up front in a Pennzoil 400, and we got that with our Mustang today. So that's front row every start so far this year. So I'm proud of this race team, proud of what everyone's effort, and obviously when you bring a new Mustang to the racetrack, you're always a little bit uncertain of what it's going to be, and a lot to learn, obviously, with the Dark Horse Mustang as well right now, but so far so good in qualifying.
Well, in practice, 20 minutes. It was a little concerning for all the Team Penske drivers. You guys were down on the charts. What do you need out of your race car, knowing what it takes to win this race tomorrow?
Yeah, I actually think it's pretty good on the long run. We went back out our second run, and we were really good, so I felt good about that part. Our fire-off speed isn't the fastest, so we'll take a look at it tonight and see if we can find anything that gets her going a little bit quicker. Clean air always helps that, though, so we're in a good spot for that. Nice pit stall as well.
Joey Logano going for his 4th win here at Las Vegas, Mike.
All of them taking place in the springtime as well for Joey. So Logano on the pole, 29.291 was his fastest lap of Group 2. Lap time slowed down a bit from Group 1 to Group 2. Third career pole at Vegas for Logano, the second already in 2024. And he's got the third straight front row start to begin the season. Kyle Larson will be on the outside of row 1 for the start of race day tomorrow, as he qualified second. Austin Cindric was third. William Byron fourth. Bubba Wallace fifth. Chase Briscoe sixth. Martin Truex Jr. seventh. Ty Gibbs 8th, Chris Buescher 9th, Christopher Bell was your top 10. That will be the top 10 for the start of tomorrow's race for the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas. That is going to conclude our live commentary stream for the Pennzoil 400 practice and qualifying sessions for the NASCAR Cup Series. Appreciate you guys tuning in over the last couple of hours, and we will still have one more stream yet today. Our live commentary coverage for the NASCAR Xfinity race will begin at the top of the next hour. 5 p.m. Eastern Time will be the start time of our Xfinity Series race coverage. That race again at Las Vegas. And tomorrow's Las Vegas Cup race will begin at 3 p.m. right here on the channel. Those streams are already up, so you can hit the like button early if you want there. Tune in early. The chat will be open. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in here for this one. I'll see you in about another hour for more NASCAR live commentary action. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in a little bit.